as you might have seen on the email, for those of you coming in through Zoom, those of you online, our focus at Human Health is to really look after people from a whole health perspective. When you call that functional medicine, 360, etc. Our primary focus is chiropractic care, but chiropractic really focuses on brain function, whole health and well-being, and therefore mental health, physical health, nutritional health is extremely important to the product of this, which is us actually working well and being happy and healthy throughout the longevity of our lives. So we also look after all different types of people and ages. So what are we here for today? So there's 4 primary things that we focus on in Human Health looking at with people, and it's our mental health and mindset, our emotional health, our physical health, which obviously comes into many different ways, whether it be your diet, your physical body, and your spiritual health too. Now, a lot of people get lost on that last section, the spiritual health side of things, because you don't have to be religious to see things from a spiritual, metaphysical point of view. Whether you want to turn that into physics or religion, it's completely up to you. It's just a recognition for the fact that outside of our physical bodies, whether that be the quantum physics in our sphere of electromagnetics, or it being something greater in your self-purpose, that's absolutely fine. But it's been shown to have a great effect on humans' health for a number of years now. So mental health today, why are we talking about it? In this lockdown that we're still in coronavirus, it's causing a lot of issues from a mental health point of view. Friends of mine that work in hospitals, studies that are being brought up and questionnaires around the world are showing a significant impact on humans. And the reason is we're not supposed to be inside, right? We're not caged animals, we're not in the zoo, and so this is completely alien and unnatural for us. I think the World Health Organization has just been sort of ramping up what they're doing, as they haven't termed it an epidemic or pandemic from a health point of view regarding mental health, but they're certainly taking increasing recognition for the fact that what they're stating is they're seeing around the world a huge increase in stress and anxiety, and the way this is having an impact on our health in other means. The American Psychiatric Association released a questionnaire to Americans, which came back showing that 36% of Americans currently are saying that the lockdown is having a significant impact on their mental health and well-being, which is huge. 36% of all Americans. So 31% of them came back and said that it's having a significant impact on their quality of sleep, which, as we know, is a key thing that can happen with stress, is that our sleep gets impacted too. So what are the signs and things that people can be looking for as stress? For many years, emotional health and stress hasn't been placed in priority, in my opinion, from the health perspective. There is incredible psychologists, psychiatrists around the world, many different schemes, courses, and different ways of getting help. But for many years, it was quite taboo and wasn't sort of, accepted, if you like, into mainstream medicine. People thought that, mental health and looking after your mental health and well-being was kind of a bit of a luxury or a bit, woo-woo, and medicine or health should just be the focus of our bodies. Exercise. Are you ill? Have you got the flu? Do you need to go to hospital and have surgery? No, then you're fine. Just put up with it. And I think, maybe a lot of this probably came from the wars and the severe scenarios that we've been through as humans over the last, 100 plus years, 1,000 years, millennia. My gran, who's I'm lucky to still have alive, turned around to me and said, I don't know what all this fuss is about. When I was a kid, there were bombs dropping in my head in London. And she goes, that was a lot more stressful than this. So everyone has a different perception, and perception is huge with stress, which I'm going to come on to afterwards. So if you're someone who doesn't necessarily associate, mental health, mindfulness and stress in your life, a lot of people that come in to see us at Human Health say, I'm fine. How's your mental health, Janice? Yep, doing really well, thank you. Not a problem. Okay, well, I can just see that you've just been going through a divorce recently. How are you finding that, etc.? So it is okay to admit that this is a tough time. And the signs you're going to see are things like increases in muscle tension between your shoulder blades, a decrease in sleep, a decrease in motivation and inspiration to do things like exercise or even daily activities that you would have otherwise liked to have done. A change in your digestive activity is also quite common. Anxiety particularly has been quite linked with irritable bowel syndrome and other changes in digestion, and that really just, the reason for that is just because the effect of the stress response on our physiology, our stomach acid levels, our digestive enzymes, and the functionality and motility of the muscles in our intestines, etc., as well as all the juices and chemicals which help us absorb things. If that gets put off kilter, your digestion is not going to be good. You might get bunged up, you might get looser, but the most important thing to recognize is it's pretty hard to absorb the nutrients you require to when you're under significant stress. And so we're going to come on to the impact of chronic stress afterwards. Other things that you could be affecting is a decreased sex drive. It's really common for people to say that, I've really noticed my libido has depreciated since I've been under stress, even if it's just for a short period of time. We know that stress, and the stress response in the body is only supposed to be, ephemeral, transient. It's not supposed to last for long. Anywhere from 45 to 90 seconds through to, I'd say, sort of a maximum fluctuations of peaks of stress over about 3 days, but within 3 hours is the most common. And this terminology, or this kind of catchment, really comes from the point of view of that primitive, if the tiger's chasing me point of view of our sympathetic reaction. You do need to increase blood flow to your muscles. You don't need to digest foods right then. Your muscles need power and oxygen to be able to work, to be able to run, to flight, to fight, and you also increase coagulants in your blood, because if you get hurt, if you get cut, you need to be able to heal and sort of look after those wounds so you don't bleed to death. And that's part of the stress response. We're not designed for it to go on and on and on and on over a period of time. We talked about the signs. My concern for people, as I've said on my previous videos, is I don't want our clients, people in Jersey or anyone in the world, to have to come through a period of lockdown healthier in your mind or body than you went into it. And there's absolutely no need. I think the most important thing that I wrote in an email to our clients at Human Health this week was just a reminder that this is a temporary time. It's a temporary point of view that we're in, and we are going to come out of it. So whilst we are adapting our lives, and we certainly don't just want to be holding on, we have to adapt, and we have to just make the most of each day to recognize also a future point, whether that be immediately when we come out of this, or I would actually say, look 5 years and 10 years down the road, because we know that every 7 years we have a new body through cell replications. So you effectively have a whole new body every 7 years. Do not make this the time that throws off those 7 years and starts to create dishealth and not vitality and health, because a lot of damage can be done within a month or a couple of months worth of time. So I've gone through a little bit about who I am, about Human Health. For those of you that know us, those of you that don't know us, you might be asking, why is a chiropractor talking about mental health? Don't you just click people's backs and necks? And yeah, we do. In some cases, we also do a lot of other techniques. But the fundamental perspective, if you don't understand what a doctor of chiropractic is, or what a chiropractor is to understand that chiropractic, as I said, is about brain function, whole health. And we've always looked at, since the inception of chiropractic, 3 things that causes changes to our body that are of really pivotal importance, and that's trauma. So it might be physical trauma like injuries, or it might be our posture, physical changes to our body. The next one is toxins. Now, toxins can be in our wider environment, in our work environment. We know that toxins can be things we put in our body. It can be things we put on our body too. There's a lot of toxins in many mainstream shampoos, etc., and things like that. So I'm sure we could all, relate to the fact that we basically live in a toxic soup right now, and it's a minefield whether you want to have good quality foods, good quality air, and avoid them. It's not easy, so you can only do the best job possible. I think a study showed that fetal blood nowadays has something like 138 more carcinogens than it did about 20 years ago, which is crazy. 138 more carcinogenic toxins in blood. The great thing is that the human body is self-healing and self-adaptable to be able to change and not be impacted by this. The third T out of the three T's is thought, and that's why we're here today. So our thoughts, as we've known for many, many, many years now, it's going to let someone else into the Zoom call, has a big impact on the way we function and on our health and our well-being. So today's really a Q&A session. So there's two things I want to take people through, which is one, how can we actually stop so that the trauma of stress and impact on our brain and our body, what can we do? And I've just come up with things that I've learned over the years. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a psychotherapist, but as I said, not only the impact of whole health and well-being through chiropractic care and functional medicine, but also my own personal experiences and help that I've had from an emotional point of view. I've just put together a little simple 7 steps that people can take to get themselves out of severe stress, trauma and panic to the brain, and to just calm themselves, because the next stage that I'll talk about is a little bit about the tools and the steps that people always ask, what should I be doing right now? Routines, foods I can be eating, etc., to stop myself from getting stressed or to calm myself. But to be honest, those things are important and you can put them in at any time. I always tell people though that, if you are in a bad scenario, obviously do contact a psychologist and a psychotherapist, and at the end I'll give you our details if you need a referral or contact for that, for a virtual session. But there are a lot of things you can do yourself, and the first thing you must do is try and calm the stress response in your body and in your brain, because the saying goes that neurons that fire together wire together, and if your brain is continually automating on a stress response, feelings and emotions like fear, anxiety, depression, loneliness will start to kick in, and that start to be your common function and your common way of life, which you really don't want it to be. So I'm just going to kick off with the first question that we got sent before kicking off today, which was, why does undue levels of stress and anxiety have an impact on us, and what effects do they have on our body and on our psyche? Now, I'll answer this in 2 ways, one simpler and one less simpler. Okay, so first of all, why does it have such an impact? So something that's important to know is that a thought that we have, as we think it in our brains, becomes a feeling. And once you experience a feeling, a feeling isn't just a connection to a thought mentally. A feeling, as we know, is something we feel. So no different to if someone touches you, or if you kick your toe and when you stub it and it hurts. It's a feeling that you feel. Different emotions we feel in different areas of our body, and we have expressions physically. So it's no longer just a mental thing. So we go from a thought to a feeling, and a feeling leads to a behavior. Now that behavior might be when you stub your toe, you might hit your bed or your door or kick it, or whatever you contacted. Or it might be, stepping away from someone that you're feeling an emotional distance from, or a particular feeling from. So the behavior part of it is hugely important, and this is one of my main inspirations for talking about this as much as possible, because we are human, and it's completely natural right now that if you're experiencing irritability, changes in your behavior, increasing tension in your body and stress, you're not finding you're the same around others, you might be noticing this even has an impact on your relationships right now. You need to become aware of that. It's okay to do so. We just need to recognize it first, and then start to take action from there, so that first of all, it doesn't hurt and it doesn't sort of disarm ourselves and doesn't hinder our own well-being, but also it doesn't affect our relationships more permanently and things around us too, because that can lead to sources of undue continued stress after. So that's my simple explanation. The more scientific explanation that's interesting for a lot of you is that stress, when we perceive it in our stress response, it comes into our 5 senses, we're aware of it, and a particular area of the brain gets lit up, or a couple. One is the prefrontal cortex, which is predominantly behavior related, which is on the front of the brain, just behind our foreheads. And so that's more of an evolved center, which we as humans have evolved over millions of years to have, which is the intelligent human brain. The other area is the amygdala, and other centers around it, which is in the center of the brain, right in the middle. And this is more primitive. It's very intelligent, but it's not so much conscious. It's more automated, and it's our sort of primitive reptilian mammillary brain where emotion suddenly kicks off. And as soon as that kickoff or cascade of signals starts to go down to our physical body, that's what causes you to have the behavioral reaction. And so a couple of things that we're going to discuss today really just link into the fact that you can stop that, or at least change that impact of the cascade from your perception into the brain and the effect it has on your body. Okay, so I'm just going to open up for questions right now. Jane, I can see you're sitting there taking everything in, and I'm sure you other guys are too. Does anyone have any questions right now? If you're on Zoom, just feel free to just type any questions into the top of the box and in your chat, and I'll open that up so I can see. And if you're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, please just write it in that section there too. And Matt, if you could just read out a question for me.
Yep. So somebody's put, how should I start my day to ensure I'm motivated and productive, as I'm feeling a little bit down at the moment?
Okay. So, how should you start your day? The first thing to do, I'd say, is a structure. And I've got 7 steps for this afterwards I'm going to come on to, but we'll just touch on it lightly now. Set yourself a structure, a time that you wake up and time that you go to bed. That really helps. If you're waking up at different times, 5 a.m., 7 a.m., 10 a.m. every day, you don't know whether it's Sunday or Monday, that's going to give you a feeling of being uncertain, of being lost, and that's really not going to be able to help. Matt, what was the second part to that question?
How can I ensure that I become motivated and productive for the day?
How can you ensure you become motivated and productive for the day? Okay, so I'm going to crack on with the 7 steps, because that both sides of it is going to help that. Okay, so first of all, stopping the automation. If a thought becomes a behavior after a feeling, we need to interject and actually have a little intervention for ourselves. So these are 7 steps that I've curated and culminated over the last 12 years, and that are very, very beneficial. I could take hours and hours to teach this, so I'm just condensing it quickly. But first of all, these 7 steps to calm your brain and stop the trauma of impact on your psyche and your body from stress. So the first one is, number 1, identify the stressor that you're thinking, or the thought that's coming in. And I'd always recommend to write this down. No matter how intelligent you are, if you can just document this, is a really good way of journaling and working through it. This technique is something you're going to need to use multiple times. I think it takes on average 50 times to really take an impact on your mental health with this over a period of time. But every time you do it, you will feel better. So first of all, identify a stressor. Also, identify the emotion attached to the stressor. So if your stressor, like that last person on the question, is loneliness, okay, and you're feeling lonely, you're on your own, and you're finding it difficult, what is the emotion attached to that? Okay, it might be sadness, it might even be anger or frustration, depending if it's towards yourself, someone. So just document that down. The second step is this the unequivocal truth? So what am I making it mean? So ask yourself, is this the unequivocal truth? I know it's your truth right now, and it's our truth to whatever thought and feeling that you're having. However, is it the ultimate truth, or is there another side to the story? And also, what are you making it mean? Are you making it mean if you're lonely that you're going to be lonely forever? Because we know that that's not true, that we're in a temporary time. So just document that down. Number 3, is this only one side? So am I only seeing one side of the story? We have a tendency as humans to have unipolar thinking, which means that we only think in one way. Don't mistake this with bipolar syndrome, okay? But bipolar thinking, to be able to see 2 sides to a story, is quite important and healthy for a human being. But it's really common that we automatically jump on the bandwagon or the issue of what is the issue right now, and to hold on to that. But if you can step outside and step back, go outside your bubble, is there another side to the story? Is there another meaning? And even, is there an opportunity in your situation that, for example, if you are lonely and alone in this, even when you do go outside for your 2 hours, seeing other people might help. When you do make a phone call to a loved one or a friend, you can reconnect and start to create feelings of, social connection. Number 4, if it is the truth, okay, so this one, if it is the ultimate truth, so you are alone right now and you can't change that and you do feel that's the ultimate truth, well, is it something that you're learning or growing individually as a person? Is it teaching you something? What is it teaching you? So, are you still okay, even though you've been alone for 4 weeks? Have you noticed that you've got great strength? Is there a particular gift or skill set that you've noticed that actually you're an incredible cook, that without this time you didn't have before, that you've developed a hobby in that time? So is there something you've taken from this truth that's actually helped you grow as a human and as an individual? Okay. Now, number 5 is on the basis that if there is another side to the story that you're open to, and if there is another meaning that you can come in on, what other motion would be involved? Now, the principle of duality states in physics that there's an equal and opposite for everything, male, female, light, dark, and that goes the same for emotions. Now, whilst this can be complicated to get your head around, an easy example is the fact that anxiety is quite closely related to excitement. So you can have both happening at the same time. Okay? Depression can be the opposite to happiness too, or sadness, if you like, can be the opposite to happiness. And they can both be happening. So you can be experiencing happiness within your life if they're hobbies that you've started, if you've been in touch with an old friend through this period of time, you can be experiencing happiness. But if you're focusing on the sadness, that will be your predominant story. So just write that down, if there is another emotion or another opportunity, or there is another side. Okay? As I said, this is a fast track, so we could spend hours and hours on this, but this is a speed track to be able to get to a calmer state in your brain. Number 6 is write the answer to 4 or 5, or both, and check in to see how you feel. Now, after going through that process, if you've been able to either work out why your truth has actually helped you grow as an individual, or you've been able to see another side to your story and actually see that whilst you are experiencing one emotion and you are experiencing stress, because this is not normal and we shouldn't accept the fact that we should be caged for a long period of time, there is another side to it, that actually other things are happening. Either way, write this down and just tune into your body. We often have a tendency as humans to be stuck in our mindsets and to not connect to our bodies. A lot of people that come in to see us at Human Health will tell us that they have pain, neck pain, right? But for some reason, even though they're aware of the neck pain and they're really tense, after a couple of adjustments, when that dissipates, they're less tense and they're moving around and they're doing movements that they couldn't do before. I say to them, do you still have the discomfort or the pain? And they say no. They weren't even aware that their pain calmed down. And this is just the fact that sometimes people aren't aware of it. So take a moment with number 6, after you've written your answer, to tune back in. And how do you feel? Have you noticed that your tension has calmed down, that you feel a little bit easier in your mindset? Okay, and then number 7, once you do feel calmer and you have connected to that, you'll normally experience a state of a little light bulb moment or gratitude even. Okay, this is fantastic, and this is what you want to be feeling, because it means that if you feel even 1% more relaxed than you did before doing this, you can guarantee that the stress hormones and the chemicals in your brain that are triggering off physiological responses that are taking you away from health, you're going to be taking yourself back towards it. So the 7th step is use the calmness to create, and you want to create your next step. So what is one thing you can change today, or you can do today, using this knowledge? It might be starting something new. It might be picking up the phone in the realization that you do still have contact to other people in a different way. If you do have contact with people, but you're someone that likes physical touch and closeness with people, then I think something that's important to do is to share. If you are on a phone call, whether that be on Zoom, something called House Party that I haven't tried out yet. Whichever, or just a phone call. Share how you're feeling, be vulnerable with the person, and have an exchange of that. We know that you release a lot of oxytocin, and your muscles and your body, your brain starts to experience a lot more calmness through that, which is really beneficial. Now, this whole 7-step process you can reuse over and over again. Every time you do it, if you can get to a point of clarity where you either realize how you've grown or you've seen the other side of the story, there is a lot of scientific evidence coming out all the time showing how you can be changing through neuroplasticity the way your brain's set. So there's two types of people, or two ways in which humans are going to react through this process. One is going to have a lower consciousness, and that lower consciousness is going to be that your perception of stress is going to trigger an emotion, which is going to trigger a behavior and cause reactivity and habits and behaviors that you probably don't like, whether it be in your eating or with your loved ones. Okay, but we all have a choice, and the other choice is to create a higher consciousness. And the higher consciousness really is that when you perceive the stress, which is natural to do so, and you process it in your brain, the higher consciousness fact is that through doing this process and getting outside of the bubble and seeing other reasons for it, or perceiving your growth and experiencing gratitude for your situation, means that actually your brain is going to, or the frontal cortex is going to experience less trauma, and you'll have less of a cascade of stress hormones in the body. And as a result of that, your consciousness elevates and your health improves. It doesn't dissipate and decrease. Okay? So, Matt, any other questions that are coming through?
Someone's just put, how might chiropractic support our immune system? So it's not a mindset question, but somebody has put that on.
So how does chiropractic, so the easiest way I can answer that is, right now we can't be having chiropractic easily unless it's an emergency or a very urgent appointment. But so not easy, but outside of COVID-19 and lockdown, chiropractic can impact the immune system through decreasing the stress response in the body, through helping you feel calmer, through whether it be improving healing, changing reactivity in the body physically. If you're calming something called the hypothalamic pituitary axis in the body, which we know an adjustment can do, then the stress response is going to decrease. If the stress response decreases, the immune system function can improve. There's been some very minimal research to show some changes in immune function with chiropractic, but it's not enough to say definitively right now the impact of just an adjustment. So it's an indirect effect, I would say, that should be mixed in with a lot of other health and well-being changes too. Okay, I hope that's answered the question. So now, last up, I'm just going to go through making sure we have enough time for those of you on Zoom too, the things that we can do once calm. So the second stage, okay, once you've got yourself calm and the brain's no longer in trauma, you can then think more clearly to take actions. Someone mentioned to me a couple of days ago the fact that they're really unmotivated. The stress, where they're usually very organized and structured, has gone out the window. So here's a few things to help you out. So number one, structure the day. As I said earlier, put a time that you're going to wake up and a time that you're going to go to bed. Have certain things that you do. If there's a time that you do yoga or Pilates or exercise each day, maybe keep it the same, or a window that you might do with light in the morning, etc. Is there a time of the day that you're going to phone loved ones? Is there a time of the day that you're going to prepare food? Start to structure that so you have a routine. Number two is routines. Okay, now people ask me morning routines. There's no perfect routine in the morning. I jump between different things, sometimes a lot smaller, sometimes larger. What I would suggest is, things like focusing in on how you're feeling on the morning straight away. Even something like a smile can help you feel different. Drinking a glass of water. Don't pick up social media. Don't watch the news straight away, because that's going to trigger stress responses. Okay, there's loads of time in the day to check social media, look at what's going on in the world, but just take a moment, maybe read something that you're interested in. Do a couple of stretches. If you do yoga and Pilates, that's the time to practice it, even if it's not a full session, that you're just opening your body, waking up like animals do in the morning. Start to stretch your back, mobilize things. get the spinal fluid moving in your spine. Exercise and movement's really important. You may just go for a walk for half an hour, or you may just do some push-ups or squats. But a combination of movement plus a change in your environment, so getting outside the bedroom, taking in hydrating, so taking in some water or a couple of essential nutrients, and something mindful. Now, that may be meditation or it may be something else, but I'll come on to that in a second because you can amalgamate these into a routine. The next, number 3, is aims, goals. Set one goal or aim for the day. It may be a recipe that you've been really wanting to try. We released one for cookies last week, which actually came out quite well. You can do anything you want, but choose something for the day that's your goal. It might be a phone call, it might be a recipe, it might be a form of exercise you haven't done, it might be an online yoga class. But try something and do it, and also celebrate the wins. So once you've completed that, if at the end of the day you're feeling low for the fact that you haven't done as much as you normally would, recognize the fact that you've completed that goal and feel the win. Feel gratitude to yourself for that. Next up, number 4, meditation. Okay, there's a variety of things for this. Apps, Headspace, Calm, they're great 10-minute meditations. We've never been in a better time for things like YouTube. Guided meditations are fantastic, but if you're more experienced, it's a really good time to be using, if you've practiced transcendental meditation or something similar, to actually start to practice that. If you are someone who has a busy mind, you feel, and you don't want to do this or you can't do it, but you want to do something mindful, even going for a jog or walk and just tuning into the sounds around you, birds singing, things going on around you, and trying to, don't force yourself out of your thoughts, but just tune into your body if you're exercising. That is a form of meditation or mindfulness too. And a lot of people that I know that do long distance running saying that that's a really good way for them to tune into it. Also, I've mentioned before things like the Wim Hof method, various breathing meditations, whether that be pranayama for people from yoga and various Asian techniques, or whether that be Wim's technique of breathing. There's lots of things on YouTube too, but essentially we need oxygen, and the more you can use your breath to calm yourself down and to take in a lot of oxygen, that's going to help your body. It's going to be very, very beneficial. 5, contact, virtual contact that I just mentioned before, making sure you do contact people, whether it be text, email, phone calls, FaceTime. Be vulnerable, tell them how you're feeling, be lighthearted, have a laugh with them. This is a very serious time, but just phone someone you can have a bit of banter with, and have a good conversation and sort of talk about old times, etc. That's going to release dopamine in your brain. It's going to help you release endorphins and feel good too. And all these physiological changes are fantastic. Similar to that with changes in the body, diet. Decrease, so this is number 6, decrease the amount of sugar you have if you're having a lot, decrease the amount of caffeine, decrease the amount of alcohol. The number of people I've spoken to that don't normally drink 5-6 days of the week, that are drinking every night because every day feels like a Sunday, or because of stress. Either way, a little bit of alcohol we know is not too harmful, but if you're drinking a lot every day, do decrease that and be careful, because that's going to be harmful and trigger the stress response too. Try not to have a lot of caffeine past midday. 1 or 2 cups of coffee or a similar caffeinated drink in the morning is good. And decrease processed sugars. Some natural sugars are fine, and the odd bit of processed sugar, but don't be binging on it all day, especially before you go to bed. That is going to decrease your rejuvenation and recovery time when you could be having a good quality sleep. Number 7, gratitude journal, or a journal of some sort. So, writing something at the end of the day or the start of the day that you're grateful for. So just like you're setting an aim and a goal for the day, write down something that you're grateful for at the end of the day. It might be one thing, it might be 3 or 7. Something that you've done, someone that you've reconnected to and spoken to, something that you've tried. It can be, absolutely anything. But it's a great task to do. You will experience endorphins, dopamine, and feel a lot calmer in yourself afterwards. And it's a nice routine to be honest to just do all the time, so you're not going to bed with a busy mind. And if you're someone that struggles to sleep because of thinking, this is a good pattern interrupt and a way to just change your mindset before you think. And if you're going to bed with a loved one, share that with them. Sharing what you're feeling grateful for and why you're feeling grateful for it is really important too. reflection is key. So as I said before, 2 choices we have: low consciousness, high consciousness. Hopefully this has been helpful. Okay, if you need any other help, this call is part of what we're terming the Lighthouse, which is shining a light on things which you can do to help yourself. If you'd like to sign up to that, you can go to our website, www.humanhealthcenter.com, sign up to the Lighthouse to receive a weekly email with some sharp, short things that you can watch, do, try out, etc., which can improve your health and well-being, and a weekly call to be able to do questions and answers, etc. too. You can email us, hi@humanhealthcenter.com, which you can also find on the website. Follow us on social media, etc. Ask us a question through direct message. The whole team is happy to help throughout the week. We're here most of the time working from home. I'm working from up in the office here, and we'd love to help you out. We are doing virtual sessions and appointments for people. There's so many ways we can help people out. So if you're in need of a friendly face or some advice and tips, stretches, exercises, let us know. And we do have emergency and urgent appointments available for those people that are really in need and would otherwise be medicating or heading into hospital, so we can decrease pressure on the healthcare system. Okay. Last chance for any last questions.
Is there any on Zoom? I can't see anyone here.
No.
No, I think that's it.
Brill. Right, we're going to leave it there. Thanks so much for coming along, listening. I hope it's been helpful. Anything we can do to help, let us know. And have a fantastic day and look after yourself.